morning. Welcome to 49ers in 5, your daily update on everything happening with the team that you need to know. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera. Today is Friday, December 29th, 2023. Here's what's happening with your San Francisco 49ers. We'll get to the most open and honest press conference I have ever heard a quarterback give in a minute. But first, we begin, as we always do, with the injury report. And man, this list is getting long. Starting with Eric Armstead, Aaron Banks, Jair Brown, Ross Dwelly, Jawan Jennings, Jordan Mason, Christian McCaffrey due to rest, and Jalen Moore in the concussion protocol. Those are all the people that did not participate yesterday. Oren Burks, Javon Hargrave, Ambry Thomas, Trent Williams, and Deebo Samuel did participate, but they were limited. Nice to see Trent Williams in there again for a second straight day. That's probably a very good sign. Now, let's get to the audio portion. Let's get to Brock so you can hear it. I have two cuts for you. They're a little long, but I wanted to make sure you got the full context of the answer. And so, you know what? It's my show, and that's what I'm going to do. Let's start with Brock. First, that interception you had on the first drive was a killer, Brock. Why did you throw that even though you knew the Ravens were not in the coverage that you were looking for?
That drive, we have two really explosive plays, the third down and then the next play after that to George again. So it's like the emotion, everything's built up, like we're feeling good. And, then we call this play with what wasn't the right coverage. And so for myself, it's like, all right, dude, progress and check it down. In the moment for myself, I was, aggressive. I was like, all right, just had two big plays. I'm trying to fit this one in. And which obviously looking back on it was not the right decision. Wasn't the smart play as a quarterback. That's something that I have to grow in, in terms of you make some big plays and stuff, but every play has a life of its own. Now, whatever play is next, you got to play the play the right way, not just feed off the emotion and everything that you felt from the previous plays. So that's something that I had to learn the hard way.
As frustrating a mistake as that is, that's a young quarterback mistake, right? Remember, he just turned 24. And what did we hear? The Niners did not want to go through the growing pains of a young Trey Lance, right? Well, Brock is also young, and he's also going to have those growing pains. And I think that was an example of one right there. It stinks. It's frustrating, but it's a natural part of the quarterback progression that every quarterback has to go through. Now, take a listen to Brock talking about how he dealt with playing knowing he had those 4 picks already in the game.
The game and the situation sort of just happened really quick. They went up quick, and in the second half, third quarter, they're up multiple scores, and so then it sort of feels like, all right, we have to make a play, and at the same time, we got all these turnovers, so don't turn the ball over. So just mentally, it was a good experience to understand, like, you have to play one play at a time. Even if we're down multiple scores, you still have a whole second half to play. You have to still think clearly in terms of what we're trying to do with each play, not just try to get back into the game with 1 or 2 plays, with explosives. It's being smart. It's taking a 5-yard out route or a check down and getting a first down and managing those situations and playing quarterback still to get your team back in the lead, by being an efficient quarterback. So those are all things that I had to learn. Towards the end, I feel like I was searching for those big plays to get back in the game rather than playing the position. And so watching the film was tough, but it was good for me. I had to learn it, and I'm glad it happened now.
Again, that's growing pains, right? And some things you just have to go through in order to understand. And I think Brock just told you that's exactly what happened. Now he understands what he should have done, the mistakes he made, and more importantly, how to correct that going forward in the future. We always give you one thing to read, one thing to watch, and one thing you might have missed. One thing to read on this Friday. If you're concerned about Brock Purdy suffering stingers in 2 straight weeks, don't be. Eric Branch has an article in the San Francisco Chronicle all about how this is probably not something we're going to have to worry about week in and week out with Brock Purdy. If you want to read it, click the link in the description of this episode. One thing to watch, Christian McCaffrey was doing an autograph session and someone tried to get him to sign a USC hat. Well, needless to say, the Stanford alum did not take kindly to that, but he did decide to write something on the hat, and you'll never believe what it was. If you want to find out, click the link in the description of this episode. One thing you may have missed, Brock Purdy is just 229 yards away from setting the 49ers single season passing yardage record. Very impressive for somebody so young. And he'd also do it in 16 games, just like Jeff Garcia did when he set the record at 4,278 23 years ago. Against that Commanders defense, you should have no problem rewriting history, Brock. That's a wrap on today's 49ers in 5. Please rate, review, and follow the Gold Standard Podcast Network. Like and subscribe to our YouTube page. If you click the little bell, you'll get notified every single time we go live. And we are live every single weekday, including later today, when Michelle Majuk and I will be live 9:15 a.m. Pacific time, breaking down this game from a gambling and fantasy perspective. So you don't want to miss that. Plus, you can hear the Gold Standard Network Hour on 95.7 The Game, 8 a.m. Pacific time on Sunday. We will get you ready for that Commanders matchup. That's a new show. It's not a podcast that we rebroadcast. It's a new show. So make sure you listen to that. And then, of course, after the game, as we always do, the Instant Reaction podcast on YouTube, on Twitch, on Facebook, me and Levin Black breaking it all down for you, hopefully celebrating a 49ers win. So please, please, please be a part of that as well. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera. We'll talk later today.